welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Mary, and today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag.
I should have told you that I loved you one more time.
So this will be my second year doing this tag. It's a tag that I'm pretty sure almost everybody does. It's very popular. I did it my first year on BookTube as well. I already mentioned that, but without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and jump into the first question. First question on this tag is, what is your favorite book that you've read so far this year? And I don't know. I keep track of my books in a Google spreadsheet, and I try to keep track of them in my bullet journal, but I'm not doing super great at that. I do my cop pile on there, so I have a list of every book, every month of the year, every book that I read that month, and what I rated it. And I have my cop pile breakdown, so I can adjust it if I feel like it needs to be adjusted throughout the year. But that was a long, boring way of telling you that I don't have a specific individual book that I would say is my absolute favorite. I have 6 books that I'm going to mention. I could probably narrow it down to 3 if I really had to, but I'm not going to because there's been 6 months this year. So first is Brother by David Triandi, which is a literary fiction book that I read back in January. Then I have Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney, which I read as part of my Reading Books Here Foster gave 5 stars, a vlog, which I will link somewhere for you if you care. The Book of M by Ping Shepherd, which is a sci-fi dystopian type of book. This is How You Lose Time War by Amal El-Motar and Max Gladstone, which is a really, really short science fiction book that's told. It's like a sapphic love story told through love letters, but it's set in a weird sci-fi world. If I Never Met You by, I believe her name is pronounced Veery McFarlane. It's spelled Mhairi, but I think it says Veery in the little author description. I could be wrong about that. I don't know how it's pronounced. I think she's Scottish, but that's just contemporary romance. And then also An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. I'm going to turn on my AC because it is really warm in here. The second question on the list is, what is the best sequel that you've read so far this year? And for this, again, I couldn't decide. So I said Days of Blood and Starlight by Lady Taylor, which is the second book in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy. I read all 3 of those, or I buddy read all 3 of those rather, with Kelly from Velvet Library. I will link her channel down below in case you want to watch some of her videos. And I also said The Damned by Renee Audier, which I enjoyed the beautiful, but I just loved the direction that The Damned took it in. And I've talked about that semi-recently in a wrap-up, so I will link that somewhere for you to watch as well. Question 3 is a new release that you've been meaning to read but haven't read yet. And for me, I'm going to say The Ones We're Meant to Find. I actually just got the hold-in from my library for the ebook of this, and it is a YA sci-fi, I think, about 2 sisters, one of whom is stuck on an island and has no memory of how she got there, and the other one is a STEM genius or something. I don't know, I haven't read it yet, but I am planning on reading it in June. The 4th question is, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? And for this, I said The Heart Principle by Helen Huang, which is the 3rd book in the Kiss Quotient sort of series of standalones. It follows different characters from the first book. I actually never read the Kiss Quotient, but I gave The Bride Test 5 stars. I read it last year. It was one of my favorite reads of the year. And it's just contemporary romance. Each of the books follows a main character who has ASD, autism spectrum disorder. And so it's just really nice to see that kind of rep in romance because I don't think it's often portrayed. I really enjoyed those, and I'm very excited for the 3rd one of those. The next question is, what was your biggest disappointment of the year so far? I have a couple of these. So the biggest one, I think, that I would say is a disappointment. I have 2 of these that I was hoping to really love and thought I would really love, that I ended up just thinking they were okay, which is really disappointing. And then I have 2 books that I thought I would enjoy at least, and I didn't like them at all. So we'll start with those, I guess. It's Wanderers by Chuck Wendig, which I read in a vlog recently, so I'll link it. And Boomer 1 by Daniel Tourday. The reason I thought I would like Wanderers is because I liked The Stand by Stephen King, and I love The Book of M by Ping Shepherd. And both of those also have the trope of end of the world, everyone's getting sick, and people all start having this urge to travel to one place for a particular reason that you don't really know about until the end of the book. Wanderers is a similar thing, except for the people who are sick are the people who are going to on this wandering journey. So that was really interesting. I thought it was an interesting premise. I just really hated the way the book went. It was also 800 pages, and I felt like it was trying to be a lot like The Stand, but something about The Stand was just way more interesting. and I was way more invested in those characters than I was in any of the characters really in Wanderers. So not for me. And the other two that were the real like disappointments are two books that I thought I would love and were just okay. And so the first is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, which is a historical fiction set around World War II. This book actually took me a really long time to pick up. I own it on my Kindle. I know my mom and my sister both really enjoyed it. And something about it just wasn't drawing me in. I was a little hesitant to pick up the historical fiction because they're very hit or miss for me. And this one, it just didn't do it for me. I didn't think any of the characters were sympathetic. I really don't like the storyline of like the good Nazi, which is kind of in it, or like that trope. Really hate that. It just wasn't for me. And then the last book that I said was really disappointing was A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir, which is the second book in An Ember in the Ashes, which I just said was like one of my favorite books that I've read so far this year. So I listened to An Ember in the Ashes as an audiobook. It's a YA fantasy about Laia and Elias, and there's like a little bit of a romance thing going on, but it's also about like trying to overthrow this evil government, and they're from different worlds, and so there's that whole like spiel. But the reason the reason I didn't like the second book is because it focuses a lot more on side characters from the first book that I didn't like. And I feel like for me to have loved this series, for it to have gone the way that I wanted it to go and still be interesting to other readers, besides just me, I think it would have had to be a duology. And since it's a 4-book series, I'm hoping I'll still get what I wanted book 2 to be in books 3 and 4 maybe, but yeah, it just wasn't for me. I didn't like the direction it went. The next question is, what book surprised you, or what was your biggest surprise read? And I'm gonna say The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, because I really didn't know how to feel about that. And also Conversations with Friends. So I read Normal People by Sally Rooney last year, and I thought it was okay. Like, I enjoyed the beginning of it. I really enjoyed the characters, but I got bored with the plot and the way that the characters handled their relationship. Conversations with Friends is a much shorter time period, and it follows one character. So you get all of her thoughts and feelings about the situation that she's in, but you get to know her really well, and she feels like a real person. And then I gave The Night Circus 4 stars, and I mentioned in the vlog, I actually read these both for reading books. Kara Foster gave 5 stars too. So me and Kara Foster have more similar tastes than I thought that we did. I said in that vlog, when I read The Night Circus and was talking about my wrap up for that, why I didn't give it 5 stars is because I felt like it took me a long time to figure out what was happening in the plot. I think on reread, it could be a 5-star. So atmospheric, so whimsical, which I know some people don't like, but I felt like it had enough of a plot to sustain itself. So that's just my opinion, but I did love that book. And I was not really expecting to because of all the negative feedback I've heard from it from other reviewers that I really trust. The next question is, who is your favorite new or new to you? So they can be a debut author or an author that you read for the first time this year. I'm gonna say A.K. Jemisin, because I read the first book in the Broken Earth trilogy, the 5th season, and really enjoyed it. I didn't give it 5 stars. It's not one of my favorite books of all time. I do want to continue in that series, and I have not done that yet. But something about it, her writing style and her concepts are so unique that I would be really interested to read more from her. Question 8 is, who is your newest fictional crush? And I mentioned this when I did this tag last year. I mean, I'm 25 now. I was 24 then. I don't really get fictional crushes. Not that you can't if you're an adult. I'm sure you still can. I just don't, I guess. But I do have those, like, fictional characters that I'm like, I get giddy reading about the relationship on page. Like, I felt like that about Peter Kavinsky when I read To All the Boys I've Loved Before, just because, like, Laura Jean likes him so much, and so it's just like this giddy feeling you get, secondhand giddiness. I don't know. I had that about Elias from An Ember in the Ashes this year. So, not so much in book 2. I didn't really like any of the characters in book 2, except for the one character I didn't like in book 1, which is odd. But, yeah, that's what I would say for this. Next question is, who is your newest favorite fictional character? And for this, I'm gonna say Pippa from A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I love her. I think she's great. I really liked Pippa as a character. I thought she was really interesting. I thought she was really smart while still seeming her age, because she is a teenager. And I also just liked her ability to, like, stay level-headed. And she just felt, like, realistic to me, I guess. The next question is books that made you cry. So speaking of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, it did make me cry. If you've read it, you probably know why. something happens to a certain type of character that I don't like to read or watch movies where it happens. I don't really want to spoil anything. But the other books that made me cry, Always and Forever Laura Jean made me cry. I read that back in January. The Book of M made me cry. I also cried in Brother. That was such a good book. So I cried in a lot of my favorite books of the year. I also cried in The Nightingale, but World War II is sad, okay? Like, it doesn't matter if I didn't end up loving that book. I thought I was gonna like it because I cried in the beginning of it. But, alas. I don't always love a book that I cry in, but there are like 3 things that will always make me cry. One of them, the death of a dog or a cat, the death of a beloved pet. An animal companion dying will always make me cry. 2 is the Holocaust / World War II. That always makes me cry. And 3 is anything to do with the AIDS crisis of the 80s specifically, but probably other things too. The next question is books that made you happy so far this year. I've been taking way too long to answer these. This is supposed to be like a 10-minute video and it's taken me 20 minutes to film, so great. Books that made me happy, I said 2 very different ones. So I said Things You Save in a Fire by Catherine Center, which I just finished when I was coming up with the answers to these questions. That book made me happy. It's a little contemporary romance. It's also more like chick-lit-y really than anything because it's about it's about the main character's relationship with her mom and how that's been like really tenuous. It's about her overcoming some trauma. And there's also a little bit like a romance element. We love to see it. I really enjoyed that book. Made me happy. And then I also said You by Caroline Kepnes made me happy, which is a thriller about a stalker / serial killer. So I really enjoyed that book. The next question is, what is the most beautiful book that you've bought or received so far this year? And I had to go with The Pisces by Melissa Broder. I love this cover. I think she's so pretty. I think the like shininess is pretty. I love the color of it. The blue and yellow really works for me. The next question is, what are some books that you need to read by the end of the year? I believe I still have all of my 5-star predictions for this year and last year left to read. So all of those. Hold me to it, please. The final question is, what is your favorite book to movie adaptation? I assume you could also do book to TV show. My favorite adaptation that I've seen this year is Pride and Prejudice, which I know that book is real old and that movie is real old. The 2005 Pride and Prejudice, but I read Pride and Prejudice with my Jane Austen book club. If you'd like to join, I'll leave the information down below. Link to the announcement video. We are reading Mansfield Park in June. The live show will be June 27th, I think. That Sunday, whatever Sunday is closest to that. Yes, we are reading through all of Jane Austen's catalog, but when we read Pride and Prejudice, I was really in the mood to watch the 2005 Pride and Prejudice movie, and so I did, and holds up. I love it. I think it's, dare I say, the greatest book to film adaptation of all time. I don't know if that's too presumptuous, but that is what I'm going to go ahead and say. But with that, those are all of the questions of this tag. I'm not going to tag anybody in particular because I feel like most people do this if they care. So if you would like to do this, please do. If you don't want to make a video, leave your answers down below because I would love to read through them. I think this type of thing is really interesting. And I like this tag because it's like, it forces you to look through all of the things that you've read so far this year and like parse things out for yourself, which I find helpful. But that's going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you made it to the end, leave a fish emoji for the Pisces. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!
I should've told you that I loved you